Hi everyone, it's Miss Haley again. Today I'm going to be going over the answers for the 6.4.2 checkup for geometry on Apex. So let's go ahead and get started. Remember that I do upload the answer keys for the checkups every Thursday, but I'll upload this video on Wednesday, and just in case you wanted to go ahead and check your answers sooner and go ahead and get that quiz done. Alright, so let's look at these first few. Okay, looks like in 1, 2, and 3, we're working with 30, 60, 90 triangles. So over on the left, I'm going to draw my 30, 60, 90 triangle. Hopefully you've already had a chance to kind of work through some of these problems and you're just checking your answers with me. But in case that there weren't any, or there were some that you couldn't figure out, sorry, I'm going to redraw that. This is a good way to get some clarification. So there's my 30-degree angle, there's my 60-degree angle, and my 90-degree angle. This side across from the 30-degree angle, that's what we're going to call x, that's the short side. The side across from the 60-degree angle is the long side, and that is x times square root of 3. And then the hypotenuse is the side across from the right angle, and that's whatever the short side is times 2. So there's my 30, 60, 90 triangle. I'm going to use that kind of as a reference as I go through the following few questions. Alright, what's the side length of S? So S is across from the 60-degree angle, which means it's the long side, right? So that means 12 is my short side. Alright, so how do I get from the short side, which is X, to the long side in my model triangle? It looks like I multiply by square root of 3. So that means S is going to be whatever the short side is, in this case 12, times square root of 3. And there's my answer. Alright, so number 2, across from the 30-degree angle is my short side, so that means 4 is my short side. And in this case, I want to find the hypotenuse, which is S. So if I look at my model triangle on the left, how do I get from the short side to the hypotenuse? I multiply by I multiply by 2. So I'm going to take the short side, which is 4, times 2. So that means S is equal to 8. Alright. And in number 3, I want to find S again, which happens to be the long side. And I'm actually given the side length of the hypotenuse. So to get from the hypotenuse to the long side, I'm going to have to do one extra step. I need to figure out what X is, which is the short side. So let's figure out what X is. How do I get from the hypotenuse to the short side? Instead of multiplying by 2, what's the opposite of multiplying by 2? Dividing by 2. So I take whatever the hypotenuse is, divide by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So that means the short side in this triangle is equal to 5. So then I need to find the long side, which is S. How do I get from the short side to the long side? Multiply by square root of 3. So S is going to be the short side, which is 5, times square root of 3. Perfect. Alright, so we just got 1, 2, and 3 done. Let's look at 4 and 5. 4 is going to be a little bit more complicated just because it's a word problem. So let's go ahead and look at this. A street sign company is making street signs in the shape of equilateral triangles. If you remember, equilateral triangle has all 3 sides the same length, okay? The side length of each sign is 22 inches, so this is 22 inches, this is 22 inches, and this is 22 inches. What is the exact altitude length so that the company will be able to know what size box to ship them in? This is something we didn't go over in class. An altitude is actually when you drop a perpendicular line and it makes a right angle with the base of the triangle. So this line right here is called an altitude. We want to figure out how long that is, okay? Alright, so one other important piece of information, if you remember in an equilateral triangle, all the sides are the same, but also all of the angles are the same. And we know that there's 180 degrees in a triangle. So if all 3 are the same, 180 divided by 3 is 60 degrees. So I know that each angle in the triangle is 60 degrees. So then if we look at this smaller triangle within the bigger blue triangle, I have a 60-degree angle, I have a 90-degree angle. So what is this angle up here? That has to be a 30-degree angle. So here we have our picture. Let's go ahead and try to find X. If we look at our triangle, X is the long side since it's across from the 60-degree angle. 22 is the hypotenuse, So that means let's call this side S, which is the short side. The short side is across from the 30-degree angle. Let's find S first. How do I go from the hypotenuse to the short side? I divide by 2. So that means S, the short side, is equal to 22 divided by 2, which is 11. Now to find X, how do I get from the short side to the long side? I multiply by square root of 3. So I take whatever the short side is, which is 11, and multiply by square root of 3. Perfect. That one was definitely the hardest one that you'll see. I'm not sure if any on your quiz are like that, but if this doesn't make sense, make sure you reach out to me so that we can kind of go through it step by step. Watch it over again, see if it makes sense, reach out to a friend. But if that doesn't help, make sure you reach out to me for some clarification. I know that was a really tricky one. Number 5, again, we're dealing with an altitude. So what is the length of this altitude right here in the equilateral triangle? All right, so let's just look at the triangle on the right, okay? So it looks like 5 square root of 3 is the short side of this triangle, right? And A, that means that is the long side. So to find A, I'm going from the short side to the long side. I take whatever the short side is, and I multiply by square root of 3. So if you remember, the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is just 3. So I still have that 5. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is 3. So that means the side length A is just 5 times 3, which is 15. Alright, so halfway done. Let's keep going. Alright, let's move on to 45, 45, 90 triangles. Again, just so we have it, on the left side, I'm going to draw the 45, 45, 90 triangle. If you remember, each leg of the 45, 45, 90 triangle is equal to x because they're equal. And then to get to the hypotenuse, you take whatever one of the legs is and multiply it by square root of 2. Alright, so let's look at 6, 7, and 8. So in this triangle, I'm given one of the legs, right? And so I need to find the other leg, which is S. What do we know about the two legs of a 45, 45, 90 triangle? They're equal, so S is also equal to 5. Alright, what is the length of S in this one? This one happens to be the hypotenuse. So how do I go from one of the legs to the hypotenuse? I multiply by square root of 2. So that means S is 12 square root of 2. And in number 8, we're actually given the hypotenuse, but I want to go back to see what one of the legs is. So instead of multiplying by square root of 2, I take whatever the hypotenuse is and divide by square root of 2. But what's square root of 2 divided by square root of 2? That cancels out. So S is equal to 8. Should be an S. Wow, hold on. S is equal to 8. There we go. Alright, so we just have 2 more to get through. What is the length of S in this one? So again, 45, 45, 90 triangles. We're given the length of our hypotenuse here, but we want to find the length of one of the legs. So instead of multiplying by square root of 2, we're going to take the hypotenuse and divide by square root of 2. So on the quiz, I'm not sure if you'll see answers like this, but if you remember from class, we're not allowed to leave a square root in the denominator. So we're going to have to get rid of it by multiplying by square root of 2 over square root of 2. Okay? So in that case, S is equal to, in the numerator, 14 square root of 2. And then in the denominator, what's square root of 2 times square root of 2? It's just 2. One more step of simplifying. What's 14 divided by 2? That's 7. And then I still have to tack on that square root of 2. So that's the length of S in this case. That's probably the trickiest one that you'll see, is when you have the hypotenuse and you have to divide by square root of 2. That's definitely the most tricky part of a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Again, in number 10, I'm given the hypotenuse, which is 20. So to find one of the side lengths, which is S, I take whatever the hypotenuse is, and instead of multiplying by square root of 2, I divide by square root of 2. Again, this could be your answer on the quiz, but the proper way to write this is without a square root in the denominator. So I have to get rid of it by multiplying by square root of 2 over square root of 2. So if I multiply straight across, 20 square root of 2 in the numerator. What's square root of 2 times square root of 2? Just 2. And then just one more step of simplification. What's 20 divided by 2? That's 10. And then square root of 2 is still on the end. Alright, so we just got through all of the questions on the 6.4.2 checkup. Let me know if you have any questions, and hopefully this helped you with your quiz that you'll take either this week or next week. I wish you the best of luck with that. Make sure you're reaching out, doing all your practice problems, and letting me know if you have any questions or concerns about anything you do on Apex. And make sure you're doing the assignments that I post on Teams as well. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.